How to tell if your school is fake. Preface. Please understand that while this text describes real education, it is also weighted down by a largely implied system of checks that makes it harder for schools and teachers to return to merely selling an impression of education again. When we talk about making money, understand this as a guard against ineffective education. Furthermore, I do not present this as a blueprint, but a living mesh network that is yet to optimize and evolve against more powerful forms of fraud and general fake education. I will not explain the consequences of fake education, though make a quick note that an uneducated voter is a dangerous voter, and that least developed nations who seem to be moving backwards perfectly display what we are in danger of, though in our case, on a much greater scale. Let us begin. In short, in a real school, you learn from other students. It's a way of validating their education. They will tutor you in creating small side projects that result in a monthly token amount of money. This is a mechanism for ensuring that other students are learning and connecting what they are learning into a real-world context. What we know as subjects today won't have traditional divisions like geometry, music theory, or object-oriented programming, but exist as a series of tutorials specific to some larger context. Geometry can, for example, be used in generative jewelry design and 3D printing. Human beings don't learn very well outside of real-world contexts. Tolerance of synthetic subjects enables schools to trick students into inventing cramming and then just passes them along without learning anything for real. If your school offers classes that sound like people's hobbies, then at the very least it is trying to teach something for real. If you are being offered raw, out of context math, physics, and chemistry, then your school is, unfortunately, fake. You must also pay attention to what leads up to graduation. A real school with real subjects will task each student with their mastery, which will then enable them to tutor other students. There must be no graduation without becoming a life-changing tutor. That is the only way to validate student knowledge and eliminate any potential fraud. Real subjects come with an unfortunate self-integrity test. In order to keep a school honest, each student must make a small amount of money. Real subjects are thus mastery of music creation, 3D printing of jewelry, painting and illustration with the aid of a wall projector. Real subjects roughly outline a small skill set that makes a sale, just enough to show that it is a real-world subject. 3D printing jewelry and illustration are perfect candidates for learning the more synthetic subjects beneath, like programming and math. Generative jewelry and AI-aided book generation will not only lead to math, but push the larger subject into more money-making as students specialize in things that are rare. The point, of course, is to learn math and the traditional subjects in useful contexts that will further the questions and the general mastery of the subject. If your school allows you to cram for tests, lets the teachers award arbitrary points as they see fit, and pushes all those who do not stick out straight into graduation, then it is in fact not a real school. I'm sorry. It is a marketplace for selling a mere impression of education. You have to pay attention to what is going on around you. You are not allowed to think to yourself, I just gotta do the hoop jumping, I just gotta get through this and graduate, and then I'll get a job and do whatever. That is what people who are trying to defraud you of your savings are counting on. You're not supposed to be a passive observer. You are meant to change the world. Learning is an act of profound self-betterment, integration of new knowledge, and a clear upgrade to your mind. A massive change that results in new abilities. You do not learn to merely save files, but to generate code that then can be compiled and ran. You don't learn hand-eye coordination, which can only come from practicing art, but use generative art AI and a wall projector to immediately paint and create unique works of art or illustrations for your books. Learning is neither a small lesson that does not fit anywhere, nor a free-floating prerequisite that will ease your memorization later on. That will only lead to fraud. Even your prestigious university with a beautiful brand name is preventing people from recording lectures not because they want to see the class in the classroom, but because they want to keep those lectures rare and expensive. They are in fact denying education to make money. Teaching is not a job. Not at all. Teaching is how we move forward, how humanity advances, how we prevent mandatory draft into another world war. Take teaching seriously. Take learning seriously. And stop tolerating fake education. Moreover, learning requires a need, an unobstructed curiosity, a larger context. If you don't care about something, if you have no need to be learning math at this moment, then you're not going to learn it. You're simply in a not yet ready state. A school is a large institution designed for streamlined learning. If you are not learning in a school, then it is not a school. As you can imagine, it is simply easier to run a fraudulent diploma mill with an extra few steps, such as incomprehensible curriculum, to feigned, hard-earned knowledge. The reason administration would fake a curriculum and all the cheerful, wise teachers would participate in the horse shit, it is because it is impossible to make a lecture relevant to an entire classroom. This requires that administration puts in all the effort, challenges the validity of standard testing, the entire architecture of an educational institution, and find ways to make it work. This means that all have to agree to stand up as one for knowledge, wisdom, greatness, and the advancement of humankind towards world peace and a more intellectual global culture. They have to rise against all the corrupt and lazy who do not care for change, who just want to get paid and do as little as possible to put some food on their table. Waking up to the world is not a ride greased on rails presented by adults. The first and foremost you have to do in life is to become a leader. This is not optional. You're going to be taken for a ride if you reject this. You are meant to learn, acquire knowledge, become wise, inherit wisdom from other beings, from books, and then rise to become a great being, so that no one will ever cheat you out of real education and a true vision of the future. You are not to be a servant. Put an A-team together and begin forming a mesh network of tutors that teach real-world subjects that then occasionally drop into classical, more synthetic ones like math. Get a programmer on your team. Tell them to structure the first version of your software as a wiki so that you can mold the system structure without much programming. And that the second version is a text game because it will integrate well with an AI. And it will behave as a multi-user dungeon, an MOO or a MUD. And here the AI will help you expand the system inside out. Eventually, you can give it a user interface similar to the C64 game Aliens, where doors and interactive objects scroll horizontally. This will give you a knowledge base and plenty of options for the future, and how students and AI can come together and learn and test and expand and validate what they have achieved. Orson Scott Card in his celebrated book shows you how you can train the AI to create puzzles that the students must solve. Talk to your city leaders, expose the existing school for what it is, and above all, please stop memorizing, because that only keeps the fraud in place and endangers the integrity of our world. Finally, to gain the much-needed insight into what learning for real actually means and feels like, and this is especially useful for middle school and high school students who are being cheated the hardest, learn JavaScript programming from internet video tutorials. Look at Node-RED and P5.js first. Then, you can sit in the back of your class and compare the fake education the teacher is making you perform to what you just learned for real, and you'll be able to see how the fraud turns. Take to listening to narrated books where you can inherit lifetimes of wisdom from great beings. Especially listen to those written by clear-thinking secular intellectuals who are celebrated across the world. Walk the Appalachian, Pacific Crest, and Continental Divide trails to leave your indoctrination behind and clear your vision for a better and safer future.